All right, welcome everybody to yet another live on relationships. Today we are speaking 6 degrees of separation, or should I call it 6 degrees of connection? Okay, that's my own term that I coined. But I came across this very fascinating thing called 6 degrees of separation. And what if I told you that human connection isn't just a feeling, isn't just a biological need, but a mathematical equation that at least AI can never solve. Something, right? Something that AI can do. And that human need for connection wasn't more than just biological. And the answer to this math question is also symbolically a number that has historically been used to symbolize man, human, creation. And that, in ancient times, creation of man and science is proving this need and this amazingness of human behavior and connectivity. So in the 1960s, a psychologist named Stanley Milgram asked a strange question. How many people separate any two strangers on earth? That's a very, I'd never have thought to ask that question. But then when I read that question, I'm like, yeah, actually, how many? And then the answer became known as the 6 degrees of separation, which is proof that relationships follow real laws, right? They follow just real mathematical, scientific laws. And it's not just emotion and it's not just biology. And modern science is now showing something even deeper, right? Deeper than just biology, that touch changes stress chemistry. Literally, when you are in relationship, when you physically touch people that are comforting and that are good for you, it lowers chemistry. It actually changes your chemistry, excuse me, and that bonds heal bodies and belongings affect survival itself. And so even though AI can map a network, it cannot cry with you, it cannot come to you at midnight with a tub of ice cream or with popcorn to watch a football game. It cannot carry your history. And so tonight I want to ask a different question, and that is, are we trying to replace something that was never meant to be replaced? Welcome to Pokes on Relationships. Here we speak everything relationships. And today I like to speak about human relationships, biology, and math. Who would have thought that math would have been something that we would rely on to prove our biological need for human connectiveness? I'll be honest, lately I've been feeling curious and pretty protective about the human race, for lack of a better word, very protective about the human race. And I am glad that I'm not the only one that's also feeling this way. A lot of people are saying, okay, well, it's all good and well to have homes that you can use to escape to Mars, or that, okay, that there are people who are making nuclear weapons and who are making up things or who are making products that could potentially destroy the human race. But then what happens to us ordinary people? And so I'm happy that I'm not the only one asking and saying that these are very important conversations for us to really be paying attention to. And so I was very happy when I discovered that people were feeling this way and are also asking these questions. And also not just asking the questions on the surface level, right? Also asking questions about human connection and the sentiment that, oh, we with all these new apps, it's almost as if human connection is optional. And I don't think human connection is optional. I think it's an absolute must. So I came across this video, which made me ask questions. Can AI imitate relationships? I think no. It can simulate something similar to that, but it's not that can AI imitate relationships, but are human connections built on laws and that machines can never enter? And I was so happy when I came across this video, and I want to share it with you. It's by this this content creator. I enjoy some of his material a lot. You know, he speaks about science, it's Veritasium, and he wrote about the 6 degrees of separation. And so I'm going to play it for you. I'm going to share it with you. Let's see. Yay! And my desktop share is working today. And I'm just going to let you have a listen because I thought it was really fascinating what he had to share.
Newspaper Die Zeit ran an experiment. They asked a falafel salesman and former theater director, Salah Bengali, who in the world he would most like to be connected to. He chose his favorite actor, Marlon Brando. So the reporters then searched for a chain of friends, family, or acquaintances, people who knew each other on a first-name basis, who could connect Bengali to Brando. As it happens, Bengali had a friend in California. This friend worked alongside the boyfriend of a woman who was the sorority sister of the daughter of the producer of the film Don Juan DeMarco, starring Marlon Brando. So in total, it took just 6 steps, 6 degrees of separation. And the idea is that this is not a unique example, that you could connect any 2 people on the planet in 6 steps or less. But is it really true? And if it is, how does it affect our lives?
How is this possible in a world of now 8 billion people that we could be that close, just 6 hops or less?
That's amazing. Firstly, I just need to pause that video there. Fair use, by the way. Just shout out to Veritasium for this. This is just, you know, fair use. But I just wanted to pause it there. And I just thought it was so interesting. Literally just 6 hops between a random person who wants to meet a superstar, and then in just literally 6 connections, they connect. Isn't that fascinating? Anyway, I'm going to just play it a little bit more, and then I actually really want to get into what I want to share today about this video.
That affect how diseases spread, how information travels. Our math showed the question is not why is the world small, it's really how could it be otherwise? But then I got a call from the FBI. We are making the world smaller all the time. Like it's supposed to be good, and yet it does expose you to toxicity and malevolence that you might have been shielded from.
You look at the net effect of it, and it's actually been pretty negative by a lot of measures. People have suffered.
It's not only dangerous in terms of disease propagation, but anything malevolent now has conduits that it didn't used to have.
If we were all connected to everyone else on the planet completely at random, then it would be almost a mathematical certainty that any 2 of us would be connected through fewer than 6 steps.
That's amazing. A mathematical certainty that any 2 of us would be connected to just literally 6 steps. And, you know, I share a lot of this stuff to say, okay, let me just get back to my main screen. I share a lot of this stuff to really emphasize the fact that there's hope for humanity. And again, I will always keep saying this, the strong relationships can really be used as a form of resistance, a resistance to systems that are trying to just make human beings not needed anymore, systems that are trying to replace the things that make us essentially human. And so what we're seeing right now is that right now we're being pushed with this idea that, oh, connection is just data. Mind you, Facebook has probably used the same mathematical equation to come up with Facebook. Because when I was watching this video, I thought, I wonder how much of this was actually put into what the idea of Facebook, or well, now called Meta, but people still say Facebook. And then when I did a little bit more research, I discovered that actually Facebook discovered that it just takes depending on where you are, just 4.3 averages for you to connect to somebody on Facebook. And so all this just stuff that I'm watching and like really paying attention to, for me, is really gearing to the fact that we can still choose each other. We can still choose human beings. We can still choose to go to mom and pop shops. We can still choose to decide that if there's, there's this other video, and I'm going to speak about it as well, where essentially the drive is to get rid of 99% of the jobs. AI can do 99% of the work that human beings can do now. And, and when I was listening to this information and statistic, it was almost like, okay, well, what 99% of the population going to be doing just sitting at home twiddling their thumbs, right? Are they going to just go ahead and follow their dreams and do their hobbies? And then I thought, that's just what AI can do. But what if human beings decided that, okay, we will use AI to our advantage where it will benefit us, but no, we are going to start companies where we employ humans. The growth might not be as fast and might not be as exponential, but I choose human. I was thinking about that. Like maybe that could be a cool tagline. I choose human. Or what if we decided that instead of just, really looking so much into ourselves and feeling lonely, we're going to decide that, I choose connection. I choose human beings and I choose human connection. Because they can make the products, but you can actually decide that you're going to go the other direction and find systems and connections in your tribe that are really going to support the survival of the human race. And I know that I keep hopping on just human beings and human race and AI. But the more I listen to it, the more I realize that I don't think that we are ready for the impact that AI is really going to have on humanity, on relationships, on connections. And it's relationships that keeps humanity going. It's relationships that make us human. And if something like AI, which is, even the Pope is considering that AI is dangerous. If it's been something, if it's a disruptive technology that has just made people realize that, look, this is so serious that we need to move the doomsday clock closer to midnight. I think it's worth us ordinary people realizing that we can do something about it. We don't need to get left behind. And so even if AI can do 99% of the work, you don't have to work with, or you don't have to go to a cafeteria that is being served by robots. I'm pretty sure it'll be cool the first 2 times, but you can decide to just go to the shop that your brother or your friend owns down the road. There's nothing that's stopping you from doing that. That already, just forming a network, even in your workspace, just if you have a company, deciding that, no, you'd probably rather hire a human instead of giving it to a robot. These are all decisions that we can make. And sometimes when you watch this stuff, it can make you feel that you're powerless. It can make us as a human race feel like there's nothing that we can do, but there's absolutely something that we can do about it. And we should start choosing relationships. And so just when I was listening to this video, I thought, wow, this is really fascinating. Everything in creation is pointing towards human beings biologically needing each other. And again, I believe we're resilient and we're going to make it. And this principle for me in this 6 steps of separation, it's showing me that relationship is not just an emotional experience. Okay, literally there are structures written into mathematics and biology. Okay, I think this is so fascinating. Am I the only one that's excited about this? That every sphere of our life is supporting the survival of the human race. But that it also shows us that trust moves through weak ties, right? There's a paper that's actually been written about this. It says opportunity travels through acquaintances. That's what the paper was literally about. It's a paper by Stanley Milgram and it's called The Small World Problem. And I'm just going to summarize it for you. I'll open up the paper and I'll share it with you. Let me see if you can see it. Yep. It's called The Small World Problem. Right. It's not that big of a read, but it's pretty interesting. And I think that you should go ahead and read it, and really the summary of it is just meaning grows through repeated embodied presence. Opportunity travels through acquaintances. And then he speaks about how there are weak ties. And those are just acquaintance. And I know somebody and I know somebody, that term. Oh, yes. I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. Like that didn't come from nowhere. It actually came from somewhere. And then there's also math to back it up. So sorry if you're not a mathematician, neither am I, but it feels good to know that the survival of humanity is also being backed by real mathematical equations and algorithms. And then he goes on to speak about strong ties, right? So those are the people that we actually know, like people in our social circles and people that we connect with. And I think that that article explains it. Some of it I would like to dive deeper in. So if you know anything about this, this theory, let me know. I'd really be fascinated to find out your take on it and what you think about it and what you think about it means for the human race. And what I even found more fascinating was the fact that it literally takes 6 connections. And as I mentioned earlier, usually 6 is symbolic for humanities. 6 is symbolic for human creation. And I just love this. I love it. Anyway, and then it goes on to just express how we're more connected, we think. We are more connected. Really, the world is a small space. And if you go ahead and you watch that video, you would find that a lot of the comments at the bottom were just speaking about how really it is a small world, that you'd find yourself in this random part of the world, and somehow, somewhere, you meet somebody who knew somebody that you knew, and then that person knew somebody. And it just goes to show you how just we're biologically wired for connection, and how it's an essential part of human need. And how I think for me, it's very comforting to know that this is something that AI cannot do. No matter how technologically advanced we get, AI cannot do that. AI can do a lot of things, but AI cannot be human. And that makes me happy. AI, for example, like when I think of it, it's it also makes me realize why, I'll take it where online connection and digital connection feels thin, because it's still in a way distant, right? You're not there physically with the person, but it's still better than, just marrying a chatbot. Because thing about just being in the presence and being in healthy relationships, again, I always have to put this caveat. Don't go and run and just be in relationships and in connection just because. Choose the right people. Your network is absolutely vital. The people you put around you, absolutely vital, because as we've said, your network is your net worth. And that video continues to speak about how our network and the things and the people around us shape us, but we also shape the people that we choose to connect with. And so let's become more intentional about who we let in our space. And so when I'm speaking about connection, I'm speaking healthy connection. I'm speaking not toxic people. In that regard, I would agree that it is actually better to be on your own than to be around toxic people, because that in itself is also not healthy. But I want to touch a bit also on just the changes that happen in terms of your body and chemistry rise when when you're in a physical presence with somebody, when you physically touch them in the same space, your oxytocin rises, okay, cortisol falls, your nervous systems settle. There's another article that I'll share with you here, and it talks about just strong ties and weak ties. And this particular I wanted to show you the diagrams: strong ties, weak ties, and then how it actually is so important for us. It says touch deprivation is correlated with negative health outcomes such as anxiety, depression, immune system disorder. That's fascinating. This explains why even in 2020, right, what happened, a lot of the times it wasn't necessarily because of just what was happening. It was because people were separated from loved ones, from being in a physical space with people that they were, connected to, that really had adverse effects on them. And I want to read this portion just to show you that affection is not decoration, it's infrastructure. it's a real infrastructure. And you can't download oxytocin, right? Like through Wi-Fi. Say, hey Wi-Fi, give me oxytocin. No, you can't do that. But that's something that physical touch and physical relationship can actually do. And here, the science of touch, I'm going to read this research. I thought it was so wonderful and fascinating. I'm really fascinated by human relationships and human nature, if you haven't figured that out yet. But it said, the research demonstrating the need for human touch is vast. From a development standpoint, infants literally cannot survive without human touch. Okay, I know, like I've heard of this study over and over again. Literally, infants cannot survive without human touch. Skin to skin contact in even the first hour after birth has been shown to help regulate newborns' temperature, heart rate, and breathing, and decreases crying. Touch also increases mother's relaxation hormones and aids in the release of oxytocin. And a now famous study examined the sensory deprivation of children in understaffed orphanages in Romania. This is pretty interesting. That touch-deprived children, the authors found, had strikingly lower cortisol and growth development levels for their age group. Okay, so this is not even in terms of like, romantic relationship. This is just relationship, just between child and parent. They also did monkey experiments. And I mean, like, connection and connectivity transcends the human space, even to monkeys. Even monkeys need each other. And it says Harlow's monkey experiments are perhaps the most famous example of research pointing at the primary need for touch. In a series of experiments, Harlow created inanimate surrogate mothers for baby monkeys made of wire and wool. And each infant became attached to its particular mother, recognizing its unique face and preferring it above others. Here's the part that was interesting for me. And it's interesting because then I think that no matter how much we make human robots, they will never be able to be human. They won't be able to release and get the same, chemical reaction in a human body that another human being would. So here it says, it says Harlow presented the infants with the soft, cuddly clothed mother as well as a wire mother located in two separate but attached chambers. And only the wire mother held a bottle for food. Harlow found that the monkey spent far more time snuggled against the cloth mother, than they spent with the wire mother, even though the wire mother was the one with the food. And then this is the line, okay, this is for me the big bingo line is, food may be necessary for survival, but touch is what sustains us. And touch comes from being in relationships that feel safe, that feel secure. And I know that you might be thinking, okay, but what if I don't have people that I trust around me? I want to say, don't give up yet. We want to build a community where we are fighting for the survival of humanity, and we're not going to give up on each other just because technology is around. In fact, we're going to find ways to leverage that technology to our advantage, and while at the same time being intentional about intimate connection and relationship. And so for me, I thought that was pretty interesting. This is how it shows up in real life. I always just think of it just even in terms of spiritually. There's a lot of material spirituality out there that also attribute just 6. It's no surprise to me, honestly, actually, that it just took 6 connections for you to eventually, that we literally only separated by just 6 points, 6 connections. Because I do believe that 6 is symbolic. It's a powerful symbol of humanity, of human race, and I'm not surprised. And I think if connection is mathematical as well as biological, then replacing it with simulation is not progress. I think it's just a category mistake. You can't substitute presence with prediction. You just can't. I mean, and I think that that's what AI is becoming very good at. It will become good at predicting your next step, at predicting your next move. But I also think, wouldn't this become boring? Won't this just become something that, eventually we'll just get tired of and then just want something that is, a bit deeper? I'm not sure. Yes, the research goes on to speak about, that human touch is very important, and how to increase, human touch, how to increase human connectivity in your life. And it's one question of it is, okay, let me just read the line. It says, even for those lucky enough to live with families or other people one has potted with, the amount of touch we are receiving has undoubtedly decreased since before the pandemic. So we can see that it's something that has already been decreasing even before the pandemic happened. But research shows that one of the most effective ways to benefit from the therapeutic benefits of touching is through massage. Massage therapy has been shown to ease depression, increase attentiveness, and enhance human function. And I wonder how much of that is not just massage therapy, because then obviously they're going to create robots, right? Nothing stops them from creating robots that can give this massage, and knowing how, AI creators are going out of their way to try and essentially simulate and do absolutely everything that a human can do. They'll probably also want to go ahead and create AI that can create the similar neurological senses in our bodies. But at the end of the day, if we choose that we are going to be intentional about relationships, there's really nothing anybody can do about it. I just think that we can build strong relationships as a form of resistance. Anyway, this particular video was a different speed to the others. I really do want to speak a lot more on AI and just some of its dangers and what we should become aware of in terms of, what it's doing to our people and our population. And I want us to be hopeful. Let us be hopeful and let us keep fighting. Let us keep fighting for humanity. Let us not give up. I do want to shout out to my streamer who joined me today at Love TV 5386. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for waiting for me. I am still trying to figure out, the good time to stream. I do stream between midnight and 1 a.m. PST time. And I'm sorry if I kept you waiting. But I appreciate you coming. I just do want to just give you a shout out. And yeah, I hope to see you next time. But let's keep fighting. Let's keep not giving up about just this whole new era of technology that we're in. And until next time, bye-bye.